Hello everyone, myself is Dr. Avinash Amangi. I am from Gurudev Academy, Dharwad. So today we are going to discuss with respect to the mock test 3 which we have conducted, and regarding majorly with respect to the biology part and mainly with respect to the word botany, right? So here the 91st question, what it says, in plants the end product of anaerobic respiration is. In plants majorly end product of anaerobic respiration is, that is nothing but what it is, a ethyl alcohol, right? So majorly what you are going to find out, the pyruvic acid actually get converts into here the acetaldehyde. Pyruvic acid is going to get converted into what? Acetaldehyde, and then with respect to the what acetaldehyde only, there will be a conversion into what the particularly ethyl alcohol, right? So ethyl alcohol formation can take place in presence of alcohol dehydrogenase, right? So majorly if you consider here with respect to the what, the option that is question, that is in plants the end product of anaerobic respiration is, that is the end product of anaerobic respiration with respect to the plant is nothing but what, it's a production of what, ethyl alcohol, right? So that what we are going to see. Then they have given what assertion, mainly like what, a typical microsporangium of angiosperm is generally surrounded by 4 wall layer, right? It is actually surrounded by what, 4 wall layers. Then the outer 3 walls layer, the outer 3 wall layers perform the function of protection and help in the what, dehiscence of what, anther to release the particularly what, pollen here. So according to that, if you consider here, the particularly here and both A and R are correct, but here R is not the correct explanation of what A, right? Because if you consider microsporangium is definitely made up of what, the 4 layers, right? So 4 layer, that is what, outer epidermis, then you are going to find out the presence of endothecium, then you are going to find out 1 to 2 layers of what, middle layer, then following to that we will have a what, a tapetum, right? Tapetum plays very important role with respect to the what, pollen sac to give what, nutrition to the what, this particularly sporogenous tissue, right? And remaining 3 of them are what, actually protective layers. So with respect to this particularly assertion reason, both of them are correct, but it is actually not a correct explanation of what, R is not a correct explanation of what, here the assertion, right? Then next question, which of the following are the characteristics of expanding population? So which of the following are the particularly what following are the characteristics of expanding population? What they are saying here, the pyramid shaped age structure, right? Then unknown shaped what, the particularly age structure, and the pre-reproductive and the particularly reproductive age group became more or less equal in size. Then rapidly growing population with the what, particularly high birth rate, right? So we have to match here with respect to the what, particularly expanding type of what, population. If you find out with respect to the what, expanding type of population, we are going to find out here the pre-reproductive age will be what, more, then the particularly what, the particularly reproductive one, and then the less will be the what, the aged one. According to that, if you consider here, answer is nothing but what, here the B, that is 1 and 4 is what, actually correct. That is the particularly pyramid that is shaped what, age structure related, then a rapidly growing population with what, high birth rate. So here actually it shows what, the like this of what, the pyramid structure, right? So what we consider here, pre-reproductive stage, then this is a reproductive stage, and the particularly what, the aged one. So based on the particularly age only we are going to find out with respect to the what, expanding population. Then perisperm differ from what, endosperm, right? Perisperm differ from what, endosperm here. So being a diploid tissue, it being what, it is a diploid tissue, then its formation by what, fusion of what, secondary nucleus with several sperm, then being a haploid tissue and having what, no reserve food, right? So according to this particularly question here, mainly it is what, being a diploid tissue, because the perisperm differs from what, endosperm. If you consider perisperm and endosperm, both of them are what, nutritive layer. So both of them are what? Nutritive layer. So here where it is going to get a differ, it is what? Perisperm is going to be diploid tissue and endosperm is going to be what? Triploid type of a tissue. So according to that, if you consider being a diploid tissue is a correct. Then next question, which cell organelle is related with what? Glycoprotein formation. So glycoprotein formation can be seen with respect to the what? The particularly Golgi apparatus. Even we call it as what? Golgi apparatus, which is going to help in what? Packaging, right? So Golgi apparatus majorly help up with respect to the what? Packaging of the material. Now whatever the endoplasmic reticulum formed protein, that will move towards what? The particularly what? Golgi apparatus. And with respect to the carbohydrate only, it leads into the what? The glycoprotein formation here. So 95 question answer is, that is what? The particularly Golgi apparatus. Next, the components without which an ecosystem cannot be initiated, right? The component without which the ecosystem cannot be initiated. Here if you consider, that is what? Sunlight and green plants, because these are the primary particularly what? Producers, and from the solar energy only the organic matter is actually formed. So with respect to an ecosystem, if you consider, there the requirement of what? Sunlight as well as what? Green plant is must, right? So answer is here what? D, right? Then identify the correct sequence of what? Taxonomic category here. So correct sequence what we have to find out. So with respect to the sequence, if you consider here, that is nothing but the majorly the first you are going to find out division, following to that class, then order, then the family, then genus and what? Species. So the correct sequence here what you are going to find out with respect to the taxonomic categories, that is nothing but what? Option D here, right? Then match the column 1 with the column 2 and select the correct answer using the codes given below, right? So we have to find out, like they have mentioned something called as what? 4 carbon compound, 2 carbon compound, 5 carbon compound and 3 carbon compound, right? And they have given what? These particularly different names here, right? So according to that, if you consider, that is nothing but what? With respect to the particularly 4 carbon compound, I can consider it as what? The particularly malic acid, right? Then a 2 carbon compound, that is nothing but what? The particularly mainly pyruvate, right? So mainly what it is? No, no, it's not pyruvate, but it's an acetyl CoA. Then 5 carbon compound, which is nothing but what here? The majorly alpha ketoglutric acid. Then 3 carbon compound, that is nothing but what? Majorly here the particularly pyruvate. So according to that, like 4 carbon compound is a malic acid, right? Then the particularly 2 carbon compound, that is what? Acetyl CoA, and 5 carbon compound, that is nothing but what? Alpha ketoglutarate acid, right? And 3 carbon compound, that is nothing but what? Pyruvate. So here with respect to that, if you consider, answer B is what? Correct, right? Then again they have given what? Match the column 1 with the column 2 and choose the what? Correct option. Column 1 with respect to the what? Column 2. So they have mentioned what? Golden rice, BT, toxin, RNAi, right? So based on that only, if you consider, golden rice is with respect to the what? Rich in vitamin A, right? So due to with respect to the what? Vitamin deficiency, we are going to see something called as what? Night blindness. So golden rice is related with what? Rich in vitamin A, and vitamin A can overcome the particularly what? The particularly night blindness, right? Then BT toxin, if you consider, that is nothing but what? Cry protein. So majorly the proteins or the toxic form of protein, they are nothing but what? Represented as cry 1AC, right? And even cry 1AB, right? Even 2AB, like that of what? The particularly proteins, toxins, what you are going to find out. And RNAi, which is related with respect to the what? Gene silencing. And RNAi is even called as what? RNA interference, or even the gene silencing technology, that what you are going to find out. So with respect to this, if you consider, A is related with 2 and B is related with 1 and C is related with 3. So here according to this, option A is correct, right? Then next question, in an ecosystem, saprophytes belonging to, right? With respect to the ecosystem, saprophytes are belonging to, they are belonging to decomposers, herbivorous, carnivorous and producers. if you consider with respect to the in an ecosystem, if you consider what is actually saprophyte here, these are actually survive with respect to the what a dead and decaying matter, right? So dead and decaying matter, so for them itself what we call it as saprophytes. Then definitely they are going to carry out what the decomposition procedure. So here that what we call it as they are decomposers. What they are actually known to be the decomposers here, right? Then in ferns, meiosis takes place at the time of, right? In ferns, meiosis takes place at the time of the spore formation, spore germination, gamete formation, antheridia and archegonia formation, right? So with respect to this, if you consider in ferns, diploid spore mother cells present in what? Sporangia. They are present in what? The sporangia, right? Now which actually divide meiotically, which they are going to divide by means of what? The meiotically, right? Then to form what? Haploid spores. When it comes to the what? Maturation, during that period only, what we are finding out here, the spores fails to what? Sustain media and germinate to form what? Small multicellular green prothallus, right? Multicellular structure it is going to form, that is nothing but what? The particularly prothallus, what we are going to call it as. According to that, if you consider in ferns, meiosis takes place at the what time of? During the what? Spore formation. Because with respect to the sporangia only, it will undergo what? Meiosis, lead into the what? Formation of spores, and those spore itself will get a differentiate and forms what? The prothallus. So here the meiosis can take place during what? The particularly spore formation. In a mRNA, the sequence of nucleotide is given, right? In a mRNA, the sequence of what? Nucleotide is given. Find out the sequence of a amino acid in the polypeptide translated, right? So we have to find out the particularly sequence of what? Amino acid, right? With respect to this particularly the sequence or nucleotide what they have given. So according to that, if you consider here majorly what it is, that is nothing but what? AUG. AUG is related with what? AUG is related to what? Methionine, right? GUG is related to what? It is related with what? Valine, right? Then the particularly CCG, right? CC is related with what? Proline, right? So these are what? The particularly amino acid. Then UU is related with respect to the what? Phenylalanine. It is related with what? The phenylalanine, right? Then UAG is related with respect to the what? Again the phenylalanine itself. So based on that, if you consider here, sorry, UAG is a stop codon, and based on that only, like here answer is what? The particularly C, right? So these are the particularly what we are going to find out the presence of what here? Methionine, valine, proline, and even what? Phenylalanine. So sequence based what we have to answer it back. So these codons will code for what? These kinds of what? The amino acids here. So question 102 answer is what? Here C, right? Then the next question, photosystem 2 of a plant is present in. So photosystem 2 of a plant is, you are going to find out with respect to the what here? The particularly photosystem 2 is present with respect to the what? Grana, right? Mainly where you are going to find out the grana of what? The particularly thylakoid. So there itself the presence of what? The photosystem 2 what we are going to find out. Understanding? Then that is what answer here? The grana, right? So which one of the following pair is not correctly matched? So which is not what? Correctly matched. So they have mentioned what? IAA, right? So IA, which is nothing but what? Indole acetic acid, right? So indole acetic acid is related with what? Cell enlargement. Then abscisic acid, it is related with what? Blotting they are saying. Then gibberellic acid, which is related with what? Stem elongation. Cytokinin, that is related with respect to the what? Cell division. So with respect to this, what we have to answer is following pair is not correctly matched. So one which is not correctly matched, that is nothing but what? Abscisic acid, which is related with respect to the what? Blotting, right? So this particularly blotting can be brought by means of whom? The particularly gibberellins, right? So blotting who will lead? The gibberellin will lead. Abscisic acid, which will actually shortens the growth actually, or even we call it as, they are known as what? Growth inhibitors over here, right? So then Next question, here answer is what? B, right? Because blotting is initiated by means of whom? The gibberellin, not by means of what? Abscisic acid, right? Then when a homozygous dominant red flowered plant is crossed with a homozygous recessive white flowered plant, right, the offspring produced will be. So what they are saying, homozygous dominant red plant is crossed with homozygous dominant plant is crossed with the particularly here dominant red flowered plant is crossed with a homozygous recessive white flowered plant, the offspring produced will be, right? So what they are saying here, homozygous dominant, then what I represent it into the capital form, and the homozygous recessive, that they are saying it is small. So capital R is nothing but what they are mentioning it as what? Red, and small r small they are mentioning it as what? White, right? So with respect to this, if you consider here, they all are going to what? They are going to form only one type of gamete, and here it is also going to form only one type of gamete. When they get fused, as they mentioned, R is dominant over what? White. Then definitely what I am going to find out, all the plants produced are here what? Red, right? All the plants produced are what here? The red. So according to this, all the flowers are the, what? The particularly red colored flower. That is what option B here, right? Then the next question, arrange the major taxa of a plant according to their decreasing proportionate number. That is, they have mentioned something called as what? Angiosperms, fungi, pteridophytes, and the particularly what? Algae. Arrange the major taxa of the plant according to their decreasing proportionate number. So based on the proportionate number, if you consider, it is first one you are going to find out what? Decreasing order. So first, with respect to that decreasing only, what I am finding out, first one is known to be the fungi, right? Then second one is what? Angiosperm, right? Then third one you are going to find out, that is nothing but what? Algae, and the fifth one is nothing but what here? The fourth one is nothing but pteridophyte. Alright, so based on that, if you consider FAA and the particularly what? The P, right? So that what we have to find out over here. So with respect to that, if you consider, the option D is correct, right? So here N is what? Fungi, right? So based on the numbering only, what we have to consider, fungi for what? F, right? Then pteridophyte is for P, right? So fungi for F, then angiosperm is for what? N, then the particularly pteridophyte is for the particularly P, and algae is for here the particularly A. So the sequence will be like F, N, A and P. So that is what option D is correct here, right? Then the tissue sequence in a dicotyledon root from outside to inside, what they are asking. The tissue sequence in a dicotyledonous root from outside to what? Inside. Then outside to inside, what we are going to find out here, the majorly, that is nothing but what? First epiblema, that is epidermis, then majorly endodermis, then pericycle and pith. So based on that only, like what? Arrangement with respect to the what? The root, what we are going to find out. So option A is correct, right? Then the next question, that is select the what? Correct statement, right? Here what statement says, with respect to the statement, if you consider, division of cytoplasm occur before the what? Division of the nucleus, right? So division of cytoplasm occur before the division of what? Nucleus, they are saying. Then division of the nucleus occur before the division of what? Cytoplasm, right? So division of nucleus occur before the division of the cytoplasm. Then both the division of nucleus and cytoplasm occur at the what? Same time. They occur at a same time. Then answer last one is what? None of these, right? So according to this, if you consider, that is the division of nucleus occur before the division of what? Particularly cytoplasm, right? That itself is what? Actually correct, right? Because first nuclear division is going to take place when it comes to the what? Cell division point, right? Then the particularly what? Cytoplasmic division can be seen. So here the particularly option B is correct, right? Then intrinsic plasticity can be found in what? Juvenile stage of many plants, such as right? So intrinsic plasticity can be seen with respect to the what here we call it as heterophily, right? So heterophily type of what conditions that what we are going to observe, and that can be seen up with respect to the what here option B, that is cotton, coriander and larkspur, right? Heterophily, that is what intrinsic plasticity can be what found on what heterophily according to the particularly what condition basis, right? Environmental condition basis different into the structure of what leaves can be find out with respect to this particularly plants, that is what cotton, coriander and larkspur. That itself what we call it as growth parameter wise we call it as plasticity, right? Then cavities are present in vascular bundles of monocot stem, while the cavities are present in what spongy parenchyma of dicot leaf. According to that, if you consider here, we are going to find out what water and air, right? So cavities are present with respect to the vascular bundle of monocot stem, that is for water, and cavities are present in the spongy parenchyma of a dicot leaf, that is for what we are for the particularly accumulation of what air, that what we are going to find out, right? So that is what here answer D is correct, right? Then the species that are restricted to geographical area, that is question number 11, right? So based on that, if you consider the species that are restricted to a geographical area are called as, they are called as majorly endemic species. They are called as what? The endemic species. Why they are restricted? Just to what stored back that particularly what species. So only for that they are set with respect to the what restricted geographical area. So those species are known to be what endemic type of what species. Then next question, that is nothing but what, in a pond last year there were 30 lotus plants, right? In a pond last year there were what 30 lotus plants. Through reproduction 25 new lotus plants were added. Through what reproduction 25 new lotus plants were added in 1 year, while 8 plants died. The birth and the death rates for the what lotus population respectively are, and the individuals per lotus per year, right? That what we have to find out. So according to that, if you consider here what they have mentioned, the total number of plants, total number of plants is what 30, right? Then with respect to that new plant added, so new plant added is what 25, right? Then so with respect to that, if I calculate birth rate, right, if I calculate birth rate, that is here new plant divided by the particularly total number of what plants. So definitely it is 25 by 30. Then answer what I am going to get is 0.83, right? So per individual, the per year what we are going to find out. The number of death they are saying. So number of what death if I consider, that is what 8, death D what I have mentioned, right? So with respect to the death, if you consider death rate is according to that, that is majorly what total number of what death divided by total number of plants. Then what I will find out here, the 8 divided by 30. So and that 8 divided by 30 will give me what 0.26. So according to that answer will be birth rate. First what they have asked you is the particularly lotus per like birth rate and death rate. So birth rate is 0.83 individuals per year and 0.26 is what the death rate. So according to that, if you consider answer A is what correct, right? Then in which phase of a cell cycle histone protein are what synthesized? In which phase of what cell cycle the histone proteins are synthesized? That is nothing but with respect to the what the particularly S phase itself, there will be a synthesis of what histone protein, because when the formation of DNA is going to take place, it should be what coiled with respect to the what chromatin network, right? So there the particularly with respect to the S phase only what I am going to find out, the proteins are even what synthesized, right? So what they are asking here, in which phase of a cell cycle histone proteins are synthesized, that is nothing but what S phase here, right? Here what I am finding out, the S phase. Then the action spectrum of photosynthesis was first described by using in a particularly suspension of what bacteria. So action spectrum of photosynthesis was first described by using in a suspension of what bacteria. It is a experimental based question and which actually explained over with respect to the what photosynthesis in higher plants. So according to that, if you consider the Engelmann who used what cladopora, that is what aerobic type and even aerobic type of what bacteria, just to show the particularly how much the light spectrum does matter for the particularly photosynthesis. So Engelmann has given that particularly experimentation, right? Then which of the following statement is correct? So correct statement what we have to find out. Here what first statement says, the protein encoded by the genes cry1AC and cry2AB control the cotton bollworm. Right. Then sorry. Then protein encoded by the cry1AB controls the what corn borer. Then the protein which actually proteins encoded by the cry1AC and cry1AB controls the what? The dipterians. So both A and B, if you consider here what actually correct, right? So correct statement what we have to find out. Majorly protein encoded by cry gene, that is what cry-AC and cry2AB controls what? Cotton bollworm, right? So it actually controls what? The particularly cotton bollworm, and cry1AB controls what? The particularly corn burr, right? So here with respect to that, here both A and B is what? Correct, right? So both A and B is correct, but with respect to the IAB, here what you are going to find out, it is going to control corn borer, right? Corn borer type of what? The particularly insects, right? So that can be what? The controlled here, right? Then match the column 1 with the column 2 and select the particularly correct option from the given code, and column 1 with what? Column 2, right? So with respect to that, what we have to find out. So here with respect to this particularly, that is nothing but what? The Rivet-Popper hypothesis, if you consider. Rivet-Popper hypothesis, which is related with what? The Paul Ehrlich. Then the particularly long-term ecosystem. Long-term ecosystem is related with whom? The David Tillman experiments using the outdoor plots. Then the species area relationship, and that species area relationship is given by whom? The Alexander von Bolt, right? So according to that, the particularly option B is correct here, right? Then the particularly with respect to that only, if you consider the last product of glycolysis produces carbon and water in the matrices of what? Mitochondria, cytoplasm, matrices of chloroplast, inner membrane of what? Mitochondria. So according to that, if you consider here majorly what we are finding out here with respect to the what? Last product of glycolysis produces carbon dioxide and water in the particularly matrices of what? Particularly mitochondria or cytoplasm, matrices of chloroplast, then inner membrane of what? Mitochondria. So that can be what? Seen up with respect to the what? Cytoplasm, because after that the whatever the product formed, that will get entered inside what? The particularly in the form of what? Acetyl CoA enter inside the Krebs cycle, right? Inside the what? Mitochondrial matrix, right? Then next question, that is nothing but what? The tassels for the pollination occurs in. The tassels for the pollination, it can occur with respect to the what? Actually Z maize, right? And what is this tassels? Tassels are the particularly long style and stigma produced with respect to the corn cob, right? And Z maize is nothing but what? The corn cob, long slender like structures which can be seen with respect to the stigma and the particularly what? Anther, that what you are going to find out with respect to the what? G maize. So tassels of pollination occurs in with respect to the what here? The G maize, right? So to trap majorly like what? Corn cob, to trap majorly like what? The pollen grains here, right? Then next question, read the given statement and select the what? Correct option. So what statement saying? The sum of growth and differentiation is development, right? Then development, second statement is development in plant is under the control of what? Extrinsic factor only, right? Then based on that we have to tell which one is correct and which one is wrong. So according to that, if you consider here, the particularly the statement 1 is correct but the statement 2 is incorrect, because if you consider development in plant is the is the under the control of what both intrinsic as well as what extrinsic factor, and here they are mentioning only what extrinsic factor. So intrinsic factor is even needed, and even what intrinsic factor is even needed for the development with respect to the what plant. So here according to that the statement 1 is correct, but the statement 2 is incorrect. That is what option C, right? Then select the odd one out of it is, right? So odd one what we have to find out majorly. So according to this, if you consider, Chlamydomonas is actually belonging to, Chlamydomonas is belonging to the what, Chlorophyceae, whereas Sargassum is belonging to the what, the particularly Sargassum, and Fucus is belonging to the Phaeophyceae. They are majorly related with respect to the what, the particularly the correct odd one out of it is. So here the option D is what, correct. According to this, if you consider, all of them are what, belonging to what, each other with respect to the what, when it comes to the algae part, right? Then in garden P, the gene which controls the flower color also controls the color of what, seed and the presence of red spot in the particularly what, leaf axil, right? And it is an example of what, it is an example of, it is an example of what, polygenic inheritance, codominance, multiple alleles, and pleiotropism. So according to that, if you consider what the question is saying, in garden P, the gene which controls the flower color even also controls the color of what, seed, right? And the presence of what, red spot in the particularly leaf axil, right? So it is an example of, it is an example of, so okay, let me finish this. I will explain the particularly related with respect to that particularly birth rate, right? So I will tell you regarding that also. In a garden pea plant, the gene which controls the flower and even it is controlling the color of the seed and even the red spot. So if you consider single gene itself is controlling many phenotypic expression, then definitely I will call it as what, the pleiotropism. Definitely I am going to call it as what here, the pleiotropism, right? So based on that, here the option D is correct, right? So we will go ahead with that particularly question, that is related with respect to the what. Let me erase first. So here what question is saying, in a pond last year there were what, 30 lotus plants. So total what, there were total 30 plants last year, right? Then 25 new plants were added in 1 year, right? In 1 year the extra additionally what, the 25 new plants were added. Then new plants added means how they are added? They are added by means of what, reproduction, right? Then it means what, it is related with respect to the birth, right? So birth, that is total were what, 30 and birth were what, the 25. So with respect to the calculation of what, birth rate, how I am going to calculate? Birth rate is equal to majorly total birth, right, divided by the total population of what, lotus, and that is nothing but what, 30 year, right? So here the total lotus plants were what, total plants were 25 and birth were what, 25, sorry 25 birth and divided by total is what, 30. So 25 divided by 30, it gives me what, 0.83, right? So this is what birth rate what we are going to calculate. Same way only they are asking related with respect to the death rate, but they have mentioned what, particularly in 1 year 8 plants died, right? The birth rate and the death rate what they are asking. So totally here how many, when it comes to the what, death rate, they are asking related with respect to the what, death. So total number what we have to see, total number is 30. So total death rate I have to calculate. Then the death, how many dead plants are there? 8 plants, and the total plants are what, 30. So what I am going to do, 8 divided by the particularly what, 30, which will actually give me what is 0.26, right? So if you consider, first momently I am going to find out the total plants, right? Then I am going to see how many of them are taking birth by means of reproduction. So total birth, that is what, 25 new, right, new one, and the old population, that is what the total plant were what 30. So 25 divided by 30, that given me what 0.83. So which is what the per individual per year what we are saying it as, right? Then with respect to the death rate, how many of them are died? 8 died. Then total particularly population is what 30. So 8 divided by 30, it will give me what 0.26. So based on that, answer is what here 0.83 and 0.26. Hope you understood this particularly, right? So we'll go ahead with what left part of this particularly question, right? Then 22nd, that is nothing but what, select the mismatched pair, right? So root hair, mainly like what, mismatched root hair unicellular, stem hair multicellular, and a trichome causes what, water loss. Guard cells regulates the opening and closing of this particularly stomata. So what I have to find out here, select the particularly what, mismatch. So majorly if you consider the particularly here, the trichome causes what, water loss. Mainly trichome are unicellular or multicellular, branched and unbranched outgrowth, which are what present strictly epidermal in origin, right? So they are present with respect to the what, the particularly epidermis origin. So they won't cause any kind of what, water loss. So you consider this match is what actually wrong. That is what mismatched pair. Trichome causes what, water loss. Majorly trichome is going to help with respect to the what, the particularly present onto the surface, and usually helps with respect to the what, their dispersals. So dispersal purpose, this particularly trichome even can be what, used, right? Then next question, that is what Mendelian recombinations are due to, right? So Mendelian recombinations are due to here either linkage or independent assortment of genes, mutation, dominant characters, right? So based on that only if I consider here, the particularly Mendelian recombinations are due to the particularly independent assortment of what, the particularly genes. He is not related with the linkage or mutation or even considerably what, the characters. Mendelian recombination characters due to. There only what he got, the ratio is 9:3:3:1, right? So they are asking recombination is due to what, independent assortment. The genes are going to get separate, segregate, independent of what each other. That recombination thing he explained with respect to the what, independent assortment by giving a expression or the phenotypic ratio 9:3:3:1, right? So 9 were parental type, 1 was even parental type, and these 3 of them were what, non-parental type, which actually shows what the recombination here, right? Then bicarpellary, next question is bicarpellary gynoecium and oblique ovary is found in, right? So this is what actually found in, this is actually found out with respect to the what, Solanium melanogena, right? Solanum melanogena is nothing but what, it is related with respect to the brinjal. The brinjal scientific name itself is nothing but what, Solanum melanogena, right? So bicarpellary gynoecium and oblique ovary is found in the particularly Solanum melanogena, right? Then select the incorrect pair, right? So incorrect pair we have to find out. So with respect to this, they have mentioned what, mitochondria oxidative phosphorylation. Yes, this is what actually correct, right? Then endoplasmic reticulum related with what, protein synthesis. Yes, it is also correct, right? Then chloroplast is related with what, photosynthesis. This is also correct. And lastly, option D, that is what, Golgi apparatus, which actually breaks down of a complex macromolecule. Majorly Golgi apparatus will help in what, packaging of the material. So incorrect pair is what, the particularly D here, right? Then identify the cross that will result in the formation of tall and the dwarf pea plants in same, that is what, equal proportion, right? So when I am going to get this particularly tall and dwarf in a equal proportion, when I am going to cross the heterozygous plant with respect to the what, any double recessive parent, right? So majorly like what, the recessive, double recessive parent if I cross, then only I am going to get what, one is what, tall and one is what actually the dwarf. one should be heterozygous and one should be what? Homozygous. Then only I am going to get what? The same equal proportion to what? The particularly majorly here, the particularly cross, that what I can find out. So heterozygous condition is what? Capital T small t, and small t, that is what? Option D. So one should be what? Heterozygous and one should be what? Homozygous type, and that itself will give me what? In equal proportion. Mainly you can consider it as what? The test cross. So test cross ratio is what? Equal 1:1, right? Then the particularly floral formula what they have mentioned, with respect to the floral formula only we have to find out the particularly it is belonging to what, right? So mainly percentage, then what? 7 plus calyx, corolla, and whatever androecium, gynoecium fused, and even what? The superior ovary type, and that I am going to find out with respect to the what? The Fabaceae family, right? So according to the what formula only we have to find out, right? Then in the following statement, find the what? The number of what? Correct statement, right? So in the following statements, find the number of correct statements here. So in photosynthesis, ATP formation is related with what? Proton gradient concentration, right? So ATP formation is related with what? Proton gradient concentration. Splitting of water occurs on outer surface of what? Thylakoid membrane. So splitting of water will takes place inner surface of what? Thylakoid, not with respect to the what? Outer surface of what? Thylakoid here, right? Then grana lamella have both PS1 and PS2. Yes, grana lamella has what? Both PS1 and PS2. NADP reductase is located on the stroma side of the what? Thylakoid membrane. Yes, that is what also correct, right? So according to this, if you find out the options with respect to here, what I am finding out here, the actually 3 of them are correct, right? So if you consider the previous type of question, based on that, the in photosynthesis ATP formation is released with what? Proton gradient concentration, chemoosmotic hypothesis of ATP formation, right? Then grana lamella have both PS1 and PS2, yes, right? Then NADP reductase is located on what? Stroma side of the particularly thylakoid membrane. So these 3 are what? Correct, and 1 is wrong, because splitting of water occurs onto the outer surface of what? The thylakoid membrane they are saying, but it occurs with respect to the what? Inner surface of thylakoid membrane, right? Then the next question, assertion, that is what? Over exploitation of a species reduces the size of what's its population, eventually leading to its extinction. Leading to its what? Extinction. Then the Stella sea cows is a large herbivorous terrestrial mammals which is on the what? The verge of the extinction due to the what? Introduction of what? Alien type of what? Species. So according to that, if you consider here, the A is correct but R is not correct, because over exploitation or over harvesting of a particularly plant and animal species what? Reduces the size of its population, right? So based on that you consider it's not due to the what? Alien, but due to the what? Over exploitation. Because of that only, like what? The particularly this is actually incorrect. R is what? Incorrect. Then the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous on the basis of what? Position of calyx and corolla with respect to the what? Androecium. Position of what? Androecium, gynoecium with respect to the calyx and corolla. Position of calyx, corolla, and androecium with respect to the gynoecium. Number of calyx, corolla, and the androecium with respect to the gynoecium. So according to that, if you consider, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous, and even epigynous on the basis of what? Position of what? Calyx, corolla, androecium with respect to the what? Gynoecium. So here the option C is what? Correct. The position of calyx, corolla, androecium with respect to the what? Gynoecium. Because with respect to the gynoecium only, what I am finding out? The ovary, right? Ovary's position with respect to the what? Thallus, that itself what actually describes what? The hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous type of what? The flowers, right? Then select the particularly what? Incorrect statement. So we have to select what here? The particularly incorrect type of statement. If you consider over in plants which shed the pollen in the particularly 3-celled stage, pollen tube carry 2 male gametes from the particularly beginning, right? In plants which shed pollen in the particularly the 3-celled stage, pollen tube carry 2 male gametes from the particularly beginning, right? So if you consider from the beginning itself, it is going to carry the particularly what male gametes. But if you consider 3-celled stage can be seen, 60% of the angiosperm will show us what 2-celled stage, that is what vegetative cell and generative cell, and remaining whatever the 40% of the angiosperm will show us the 3-celled stage, that is what with respect to the generative cells. So from the beginning only this statement is what actually correct, right? Then fully formed apparatus present at a microfilar end of the what synergids guides the what entry of pollen tube. Yes, the fully formed apparatus you are going to find out with respect to the synergids, and it is actually a thickness nearer to the what actually the particularly microfilar end. So here this option is what even correct. Then pollen tube usually enters the what ovule through the chalaza. Pollen tube enters through the what ovule with chalaza, what they are saying. Chalaza is the what basal part of the particularly ovule. So actually pollen tube will enter with respect to the what microfilar end, not with respect to the what chalaza, right? So microfilar end it should be. So this statement is what wrong. Then last statement what it says, pollen tube grows through the what tissue of the stigma and the style and reaches the particularly what ovary, right? So this is what even correct. So according to this, the wrong statement or incorrect statement is what option C here, right? Then the bacteriophage labeled with what 35 years was allowed to attach to the what E. coli. After some times the culture was agitated in a blender and then centrifuged. The radioactivity was noticed in, right? So what they have done, bacteriophage labeled with what radio sulfur they are mentioning, right? So sulfur if they are mentioning, sulfur is actually a part of what the particularly protein, right? Sulfur is a part of what the protein, because DNA constituent if I consider, that is nothing but they are going to label with radiophosphate, right? Radio labeled phosphate, that is related with respect to the what DNA. Then definitely with respect to the whatever the experiment over here, what I am finding out, this protein or sulfur, the radioactivity was noticed with respect to the what supernatant. It will not be there inside the pellet, because pellet consists of what cell, and cell will consist of what DNA. The particularly with respect to the bacteriophage, the genetic material itself will get enter, not the particularly protein. So protein will be left out with respect to the what supernatant here, right? So here option A is correct, right? Then with respect to that only, next question, that is which of the following is post mitotic phase of the cell cycle and where the active synthesis of what RNA and protein takes place. So with respect to that, if you consider here the G1 phase in which the post mitotic phase of the what cell cycle where the active synthesis of what RNA and protein synthesis will take place, right? The transcription and translation type of what the synthesis can be what seen over here. So that is nothing but what in G1 phase, right? Then next question, that is nothing but what, read the given statement and select the particularly correct option. So statement 1, that is what sphagnum is slowly carbonized and comprised and fossilized over the thousands of years to produce a dark spongy mass called as what pit. Then pit is used as fuel, right? So based on that, if you consider here, the particularly option A is correct. Both the statement 1 and 2 are true. So sphagnum is solely carbonized and then compressed, and then it is what fossilized over thousands of years to produce what dark spongy mass, and what we call it as pit, and the pit is used as what the particularly fuel, right? Then the last question of this particularly botany discussion, that is read the given statement and what the select the correct options according to this. In statement 1, in prokaryotes the structural gene in a particularly transcription unit is mostly monocystronic, right? Then statement 2 says the monocystronic structural gene have a coding sequence called as what exons, right? So first statement wise, if you consider in prokaryotes, the structural gene in a transcription unit is mostly what monocystronic. So structural gene in with respect to the prokaryotic, it's not what monocystronic, it is actually a polycistronic type. What it is? The polycistronic type, right? So polycistronic type, what I'm going to find out. Then the monocistronic structural gene have a what coding sequence called as what? Exon. Yes, introns are the non-coding sequences and exons are the particularly coding sequence with respect to the what H and mRNA, what we are going to find out. So according to this, if you consider here, statement 1 is incorrect, but the statement 2 is correct, because here in prokaryotic it is polycistronic type of what transcript, not the particularly monocistronic, because with respect to the what single mRNA there will be a attachment of what many ribosomes, right, and a single mRNA can lead into the formation of what many a type of protein, so only we call it as polycistronic type, right. So this is all about what the mock test 3 related with respect to the botany part of biology. So thank you so much. Please do subscribe our channel and please do like and share. Thank you.